Andor, the latest Star Wars series. I'm just going to do a basic review like this. I'm just going to sit down and record my thoughts on it. It's 3 episodes. Don't really feel like covering it at like 4 a.m. right now. Every little detail about it like I have in the past. But I do want to give my thoughts. And Andor, the first 3 episodes of the new Star Wars series here is basically kind of what I expected from the show. It's not anything necessarily outstanding or anything like that. I didn't go into this show expecting it to be like the greatest Star Wars that I've ever seen in my entire life. But it's also not as bad as some of the things that we've been seeing from Star Wars lately. Andor is a very dark and gritty show. That is one of the pluses to this show, I'd say. It's one of the big pluses to this show so far. This is 3 episodes in, of course, but Andor is a very dark, gritty show. It starts out very dark. There's this first scene that you basically focus the first 3 episodes on, really. There's this first scene that Cassian ends up having in that first, first few minutes, basically. He ends up killing like two, spoilers, by the way. He ends up killing like two officers on this planet, Imperial planet. I think they're kind of like an Imperial sector or whatever these people are. And he ends up killing two of these guys, these guards in this planet or sector or wherever they are. And he kills two of them, and then they're after him. So there's like these dudes in these like blue red suits or whatever. I think they're Imperial something, maybe not, I don't know, but they are the current enemy that Cassian Andor is facing. Essentially, we just follow Cassian around trying to find his way, do whatever he wants. I don't know necessarily. I don't want to go too much into details about it, but we do learn more about Cassian. We learn a bit more about his family and his history a little bit. That's fine. It's good to learn more about a character we basically know nothing about. But I basically wrote down here, like, I think the show is fine. I think it's a really fine show so far. I don't think it's great, and I don't think it's bad. I think it's fine. I think one of the biggest things I have an issue with so far, 3 episodes into the Andor, is it doesn't really feel like Star Wars that much yet. There are certain elements in this show. Obviously, it's going to include Star Wars things. You got blasters, you got ships and all that stuff. You have Cassian Andor, obviously a character we know from Rogue One. But that's kind of it. We're kind of stuck following this character that we don't know that well. And there's only just a few blasters and ships and some references to the Empire and the Republic, references and stuff like that. But the vibe and the tone of the show, it's very dark. It's very interesting. I'm not going to deny that. It's quite an interesting show. But it is just, I don't see where the Star Wars is yet. And I get it. We're not really following the Jedi. We're not following like massive rebellion characters or original characters from the original trilogy or whatever, any major characters. There's no major character. This is like a hero beginning, this guy who was so heavily involved in the rebellion, how he got involved into the rebellion, as we saw him in Rogue One, where he went to help out in stealing the Death Star plans. So it's a really cool start to, I think, Cassian's story. And just I really cannot believe the production on this show, too. It looks a lot better than the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. Obi-Wan Kenobi, compared to this, is terrible. It really is. Like, if you watch Obi-Wan Kenobi and then you turn on Andor right after, you're going to be... It's two different things. Like, I don't even know how they made Andor and then they made Kenobi and then they made Andor. I don't get how they ended up going from that to this. I don't know. The production looks a lot better. It just visually looks a lot better. The tone is a lot darker. It's a lot more grittier. You got a lot more just, flat out, they do things the way they kind of should happen instead of like these little, I guess it's like humor type moments, like very, very lighthearted, like we had with like some Leia stuff in Kenobi. It's just a lot darker, and I do like that tone for this show. And it's very different from all the Disney Plus stuff for Star Wars so far. So it is like probably the darkest series we've had on Disney Plus so far for Star Wars. There's no baby Grogu, there's no Leia, none of that stuff. It's Cassian Andor's story so far, and I do like that. I have nothing wrong with the character, really. We're still learning the character. We do see flashbacks of Cassian when he is much younger. We learn a little bit more of his history, and it's obviously during the Clone Wars because we hear them mention that the Republic is coming. So that's cool to see that reference there. But here's another thing. We know about Cassian. We knew Cassian from Rogue One. So you can kind of connect to some Star Wars there as well. But basically everybody else in this show so far is new. Like I think everyone else in this show is brand new. You do have a droid. You do have a droid that talks with him as well. So I mean that's kind of cool. But the main connection you really have to the show, and I'm not saying the show needs cameos or just a cameo every week, like we get with Mandalorian or Book of Boba Fett, that type of stuff. But you know, all the characters are new. So I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but the characters are new. It's hard to connect to it so far, but it does seem like they're building those characters up going forwards. It does seem like they have really structured this show early on here to the point where they have a set story. They know a story they're going to tell. Whether it's good or not, that's for us to determine. But they do have a set story they want to tell, and they want to tell it the way they want to. It's a very dark, grittier story in Star Wars. It's not really going to focus on the Jedi, really. At least I think it won't. It's going to focus on the rebellion. Lots of these things do. And I think Cassian, the tone of the show, I think it's really what's going to save it for me, if anything. But it's got a really good dark tone to it. And I do like that. It really surprised me when it opened up on episode 1. It's a kind of a slow story in general for the first 3 episodes. Like there's not a whole lot going on in the story. It's very slow paced, but you know what's going on. You can kind of follow what's going on. And I kind of got the general idea of the story. Some things I'm confused on. We'll probably learn about it going into episode 4 and all the way to episode 12. I think the acting in the show is pretty good too. Some of the acting in some of the recent Star Wars stuff has been kind of weird, kind of strange a little bit. Not the greatest stuff, especially in Kenobi. But I think the actors in this show are pretty good at what they're doing. I can believe them when they're in a scene. And Cassian, Andor, Diego Luna, I think that's his name. He's really great. The guy he's alongside, I don't even know his name, the character's name or the actor's name, but the guy we saw in like that sneak peek scene, in the warehouse where everything falls, that guy he was speaking to, really great actor as well. I think he's been in Marvel stuff. I'm not too sure, but he's really good in this show so far as well. I like his presence on the show. But overall, Andor, I mean, we're still building new characters. There's a bunch of new characters that they've introduced in Cassian's life, where there's like this older lady that kind of abducted him, actually, and some other guy. It's in the flashback, he literally gets abducted. It's kind of the impression I got. He gets abducted, and then later on, of course, at the wherever he lives now. I don't remember the names of any of this stuff right now, but wherever he lives now, there's like this lady named Bix, I think that's her name. It seems like she'll be an integral part of the story going forward as well. So I know we're going to see some other characters like Mon Mothma. We're going to see this new Imperial lady that she's definitely making her rounds on the promotion for sure right now. Maybe not for the best things, but either way, we'll see her. We'll probably see some more characters show up. But for now, I think they've had a good setup for this show, and I'm curious to see where it goes because it was nothing special. It was just a really good setup to a possible good story. And I think that's basically all you can really ask for Star Wars right now. We don't have many compelling stories in any way, really. Kenobi was just I didn't like Kenobi at all. This one's watchable. It is watchable. Maybe not the greatest thing, but it is a watchable show, and it is probably one of the better Star Wars, better produced. It seems like it's such a higher quality than Kenobi and Book of Boba Fett. Those shows on stuff like that, just they feel so cheap and different than this one. I know it might be because of green screen, and we don't really know exactly what they did. They just put a lot more effort into this, I think, at least so far. So that's my overall thoughts on Andor. The first 3 episodes, they dropped them all at once. Very late at night right now. I just want to get my thoughts out there, just not really break it down, just kind of give my first reactions here right after I finished. So on to episode 4. Hopefully it continues to be decent.